It's DeMario, aka Wise, aka Dark Skin Drake, aka Nighttime Voice. I'm with Winifred's daughter, and I'm interviewing my homie, Lynae Bogues, aka Lynae,
Okay.
aka Neezy.
Okay.
Right? Okay, so we got all these names going on, but what, as a poet, what do you identify as? What do you go by?
Well, when I first started getting on open mic stages, I used Lynae.
Okay.
It was a friend. It was a nickname given to me by one of my close friends in college, and I thought it was a dope little stage name to catch people's ears when I went up. But as I'm maturing in my art form, expanding outside of the stage, outside of the open mic space, I do think my full name is more fitting of my artistry. So for now, it's Lynae Bogues.
Lynae Bogues. So, okay, who is Lynae Bogues? You're a Black history teacher, right?
Indeed, yeah.
And a poet. So with those two things together, who is Lynae Bogues?
Lynae Bogues is someone who is super passionate about doing things that are outside of the box. She has an issue with authority because of the way authority exists.
Right, okay.
So I'm also, the way teaching works, at least in Georgia, you have to be certified in a specific area. So I'm certified to teach U.S. history.
Okay.
But my degree is in African American history. And so looking through those standards and the content I'm teaching those kids, like, they're nowhere to be found. So I'm super, super, super passionate about putting content in front of them that is representative of their culture, that is more than just fun facts. Because my kids come in my class at the beginning of every semester, it never fails. Ms. Bogues, we really don't need this class. We know everything about Black history, and by the end, their minds have just been open to a whole whirlwind of things. So I want to do that not only in the classroom, but also in my poetry. Like, I'm an educator throughout. I just don't think I have to do it in the classroom.
Okay.
So yeah.
So when you're doing your poetry, do you feel the need to, like, you feel like you're educating everyone, or is it entertainment, or like how would you categorize that?
It's a mix of both.
Okay.
I don't know that it has a category just yet, because one thing I try to do with my artistry, and something I struggle with, is not to come off too preachy.
Right.
So I don't ever, there's not a single piece that I have that is like, Huey P. Newton, FBI murder. Like, it's not anything like that. And there's nothing wrong with poets who do that, but I do feel like spoken word is such a niche art form that only people who like poetry go to open mics. You know, so I want what I do to be able to catch anybody's ear. So whatever my undertone is something to open people's mind, and that is a form of teaching. That is a form of learning to be exposed to different opinions and ideas, and just even settings. So yeah, I always just try to throw in a piece or have my piece in a context that is about something that might be unfamiliar to groups of people. Okay,
so with that being said, my mind just went blank.
Okay.
You really just, that was really good.
Yeah.
So when it comes to so you have a project that you're releasing, right?
Yeah.
And you have a name.
Yes.
What is it called?
It is called LGIM. It's an acronym for Little Girl in Me.
Little Girl in Me.
Yes.
LGIM.
Yes.
That sounds, okay, so explain that to me. What does that mean?
So, Little Girl in Me is kind of like a love letter. It's a love letter, and it's also a letter asking for forgiveness.
Okay.
This project is a culmination of my own life experiences and the experiences that I've learned that I share with a lot of other Black women and girls. And what I find is that Black women, because of stereotypes like strong Black womanhood, or even Black people not going to therapy, or even the idea that you protect Black men at all costs, because of those tropes, a lot of Black women still suffer from issues or trauma they experienced during their girlhood years that they never fully flesh out. Because they don't really have space to do it, or they don't take space to do it because it's not within African American culture to allow women to do that. And so Little Girl in Me, it talks about things like sexual abuse, it talks about low self-esteem, it talks about even relationships with other women, and how those things inform the way we function in relationships, you know, whatever your orientation is, how you function in romantic relationships. And at the end, is calling for a reflection on your relationship with yourself.
Wow.
So I said all those things, but it's ultimately about self-love and that particular journey to get there.
Okay. So, what was your like writing process? Because I listened to it.
Yeah.
And I've seen you perform.
Yeah.
And literally the first word that comes to my mind is assassin. Like, seriously. No, seriously. Like, the first time I saw you perform, I was like, yo, like, am I at like a smack? It's a smack DVD? Like, it was like bars, you know what I'm saying? So like, when it came to, but when I listened to your project, it some of it was the assassin, but then also it was like, some of it was a little softer tone, you know what I'm saying? Usually I'm listening to you, I'm like, yo, like watching out with this one, I was like, wow, like she's really taking it there. And it seems like it was some very deep subject matter.
Well, my writing process now, and mind you, poetry is a talent I've always had, but I didn't really make my gift work for me until recently. I didn't decide to start doing poetry consistently and putting my all into it outside of college until like maybe the end of 2019, really. But now when I write, I always go back to a conversation I had with this young lady that I wrote a piece with. We wrote a piece on colorism together when we were in college, and it was about ain't shit niggas. But one thing she said to me was, you are very good at captivating the audience with tricky lines and word smithery. Is that
it's like I can see that you are a wordsmith. It's wordplay.
Yeah. So she said you're really good at that, but where is the element of reflection in your writing? And it hit me, and I was like, but it challenged me because I had to check myself and say, yeah, you're talented at this, but you're still doing it for a reaction. Like, where's your truth? You can say how you feel, but where is your truth? So when I came to this project, and ever since then, but like when I really sat down for this, I thought about that. Like, there might be times where it's necessary for me to just be real and just express feeling and emotion, because I'm also talking about a group of people that don't really get to do that without being called angry or crazy or overly emotional, women in general, but Black women especially. And then there are times where I'm just angry, and it's okay to be an angry Black woman because we have a lot of shit to be angry about, but I wanted to make sure that was that duality. So that conversation I have with her literally is always in the back of my head when I'm writing now, because doing both is what's going to set me apart.
Yeah, it's that thing, like, and I've heard it myself as an artist. It's like, okay, you rapping good, it sounds good, but like, we want to feel that, you know what I'm saying? And that project definitely you can feel that for sure.
Thank you.
So as far as, what about, do you have a specific writing process? Like, as far as like when you go in, like, did you say, I need a poem about this, or I need a piece about this, or did it just come together? Because I know it can go.
It can go either way. It can go either way. And so it'll really depend. If I'm given a theme, it's really hard for me to work with sometimes. Excuse me. I'm gonna repeat that. It kind of goes both ways, because if I'm given a theme, it can be really hard for me to just like write in between the lines for somebody else's project, which is interesting because when I was in college, that's all I did. Okay, you got a theme, you want me to come turn it out on the stage, cool, I'm gonna do that. But now, because I'm in a space where I want to write for myself, that becomes a little difficult. So if I have a theme, it might take me some time to write that poem. But if I'm free writing, I can literally write down something in 10 minutes. And I might come back to it and say, well, this sounds better this way. But more often than not, I have to free write in a journal with pen and paper to feel it, like to make it physical, to make it tangible. Then I will re-go over it, like typing it in my notes, in my note app, and my laptop, so I can see it with some structure. Because before, it's just like cross outs and erase marks and little paragraphs all over the paper. And then I have to say it to myself. I have to go through the process of trying to memorize it. And I don't know about you, I don't know if it's the same with music, but like sometimes it's not till I get on the stage that I say it how it feels, how it should come out. So it's an ongoing process, and it really just depends. But like for this, I had a certain set. It was only supposed to be 4 different poems. And then I wanted to really flesh it out and fill it out to make it more like an EP and have some more room and depth in my story. So it started from those 4 pieces, and there were some where I was just like, this is trash. I'm talking recorded the whole video, edited it, went crazy because my laptop wasn't working to get the finished project, and was like, doing this all over because I don't like none of this.
That is a part of creating.
Yeah.
Like, you could be in a moment and do everything from top to bottom, and then you're like, wow, that ain't it.
Right. And but I take pride in that because I understand that, and I'm feeling the way that I'm challenging myself now, that if I don't experience things like that, then I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
So yeah, it's funny because when I graduated from my master's program, the
You
director.
got a master's? We didn't talk about that.
Yes.
That is amazing.
I got 2 degrees.
Okay. 2.
No. But yeah, my director, he became my mentor, and it was like a 1-year program. It's the craziest thing I ever done. But as he was talking about me to the crowd as I was having my graduation, I was the only one graduating.
Wow.
But he said, this girl picks the hardest things to go after, and I don't even think she knows she's going after the hardest things. That's just what feels right to her. And that also stuck with me because, I don't go after things for the sake of saying that I conquered it to show off to someone, but those are the things that intrigue me most. So I apply that to my process right now as well. If I'm not struggling, if I'm not pushing myself past my limits, then I'm not working as hard as I need to.
I like that. That was good. Okay, so you sound like somebody who could potentially, like this, if you do the promotion piece, right?
Okay,
Which we'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this could be some iconic shit, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like you might have some very like powerful influences.
Mm-hmm.
So who are some people that you look up to? It could be music.
Mm-hmm.
They could be poets.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. Like who do you look to, or who have you looked to? Who has helped you be who you are?
Well, Maya Angelou. Couldn't be anywhere without Maya Angelou. I couldn't be anywhere without her cameos in the Tyler Perry movies when I was a little girl. And my mother always compares me to Maya Angelou. Wow. My mother's side of the family compares me to Maya Angelou. And I never thought much of it because I adore my family, but they also come from poverty. And so I used to just think, well, that's all they know to compare me to because I write poetry. But she is a name that this world would never forget. And it's because she was unabashed about putting herself in her work.
She be talking about some shit.
Yes, yes.
For real.
And so I look to her. I don't really look to anybody for style, except I will say in the way that I flow, because I do kind of want to ride the line between doing what it is I'm doing and the music industry. And so when it comes to me doing what I do over music, I do think about people like Andre 3000 and Kendrick Lamar and even Chance, because those are people who are poetic in music. And if I were to dance with that line, that's exactly what I'd like to do. But I just think about people, their work ethic, and I kind of just try to look at their resumes, like what did they do to get to where they are? And another person who is very influential for me, not even to be basic, but Beyonce. Beyonce's work ethic is out of this world, and I was not even a beehive. I'm not a beehive particularly. I'm not a beehive person particularly, but I cannot deny the amount of work, the amount of precision that goes into her craft, the amount of planning that goes into her craft. Even now that I'm trying to work on doing short films and visuals for my pieces, I study Lemonade. I've been watching Black is King to see literally, because I don't know too much about it. Like that's gonna be part of my story when I do more interviews like this. I'm speaking into the future. Right. No, but like I don't know how to work Final Cut Pro. I don't know what camera angles are called. I don't know what any of it is. I'm just figuring out. So I watch her and I watch to see like the way she zooms in the camera when she's doing something specific. What does that make me feel? Is that something that I want to apply to what I'm doing? So those are people that are my major influencers. Yeah.
Okay, so Maya Angelou, Beyonce, Chance, Kendrick, Andre 3000. love all those people.
Yeah.
Chances.
Okay, he be saying stuff sometimes.
Let's cut that out.
Okay.
But yes, no, those are good influences. So this time period, we're gonna cut this off. I'm gonna reach for my handy dandy notes. Like that didn't happen. So, now with all that being said, what is your favorite personal piece and why?
My favorite personal piece, interestingly enough, is not by any of those people. I really developed my craft by watching Def Poetry Jam YouTube videos. Yes. And there's this one man, his name is Daniel Beatty. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. But he has a poem called Duality Duel. And what it is, it's a battle you see between the nerd and the nigger in me.
Wow.
And so this man, that's one of the opening lines.
Yeah.
This poem is maybe not even 2 minutes long, but when I tell you, he took me on an emotional roller coaster. Like I feel it in my bones. I get goosebumps. Like my brain like tingles. Like I get sensations when things speak to me spiritually. Like I feel the anointing off of it. And what he does with his audience is phenomenal in telling a story, and it's for all of those reasons. And then also the content. He talks about being a learned Black person and what being a product of Ivy Leagues can do to estrange you from your community, but how much of a demand it is from your community to recognize the community. So, that also kind of spoke to me because, again, with my mother's side of the family, I am the one they look to as far as education. And I won't say they expect things from me that don't put any pressure on me, but I am the cousin that doesn't have any kids, that has 2 degrees, that has a steady job, that doesn't have any kids. But I still feel an obligation to give back.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right. I saw in the beginning of this, when you were talking about some things, it was like something was coming over you, like some emotion. And I know that when you create stuff, especially with something that's near and dear to you, something that's like, for example, for me, I'm working on an album, right? Some of the stuff on that album, when you play it over and over again and you're writing about it or you're mixing it up or whatever, it continues to take you to that place that you were in. So I have to do things like meditate, go for a walk, turn off all my technology, stuff like that. What is something that you do for self-care? Like, so if you go in and you are writing something that just really takes you there, what do you do to escape?
Honestly, a lot of things that I write about are so therapeutic that sitting in it. Sometimes I have to sit with it. Sometimes I have to read it over and over again. Sometimes I have to have a cathartic release by talking to someone like my mom about it, or praying and thanking God for revelation and understanding for certain things. But self-care is definitely something I'm still working on. But now more and more I find myself just taking quiet time.
Quiet time?
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't meditate or anything like that?
I wouldn't say I do it enough to call it a thing that I do.
Okay. I feel that.
But just taking breaths, if beginning to have a good meditation hobby is taking breaths to stop yourself, then yes, I do.
You got an Apple Watch?
Yeah, I do. It be telling me to breathe all the time.
Boy, yes, and it be coming in just in time sometimes. It's kind of weird.
Maybe
it's
so.
Like that thing be on your heart or something, man.
Maybe so.
For real. So I'm gonna reach back. This isn't happening. Cut off. Did that. I ran through these questions without having to look at them. I'm happy. You did that. Ooh, didn't do that. Didn't do that. Yes. Ooh.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's have some fun. Okay, so with all that being said about self-care, what do you do when you reach a writer's block? And do you reach a writer's block?
I absolutely do. There's some things I can't push out of myself. I think that goes for every writer. But I read this book. It's called The War of Art. There's something called The Art of War that a lot of people have read. I've not read that one, but this one is called The War of Art, and it is about artists literally sitting down to do the work. And it just basically says, at the end of the day, the biggest thing that keeps us from doing our work is not doing our work. If that makes any sense. Like finding everything else to do, and even if you're sitting down to write and your mind is 1,000 places but where you are, that's what keeps us from doing it. So I might have to put it down. Free writing is my best process to just try to at least get out the good ideas I have in my head and group them with the bad ideas. But the thing that I find most is that I have to get up in the middle of the night and just come out here and write. When it's completely silent, I have no distractions, and I sit with myself and I ask God. I sit down. One of the things the book talks about is sending your prayer to the muses. Muses are things that inspire you. And so I believe in Jesus. So I ask him to send the spirit of the muses to come and flow through me so that I can write, like give me the words, give me the understanding. And it may take a while, but I just have to sit there and do it.
I feel that. I know that was so like good, like for your writer's block. A lot of times I just smoke a blunt and just bing, 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 or just take a shot. And that's not healthy. I don't recommend that. I don't recommend that. Would you say that again?
Sometimes it's helpful. Like sometimes I go on stage if my nerves are shot, take a little bit of, and I'm good.
I have done a show where I was wasted and niggas was like, "Yo, you killed that," and I'm like, I don't even remember performing. I'm glad you liked it though. I hope you got some footage. Okay, so we spoke on self-care and we spoke on the little girl in me, right? But we spoke on your influences, right? So you said Beyonce, Chance, Andre 3000, Maya Angelou. So when I think about Chance and Andre, they're on two different ends. So Andre 3000 is one of my favorite artists. But I'm not blaming anything, I'm not saying anything bad about him, but he seems like a conscious person, right? And to my knowledge, I know he has great representation of black people, but to my knowledge, I don't really see him being somebody involved in social justice issues. But I think Chance kind of is, right? I know Chance's dad is a politician. I'm not 100% sure about that. But so how do you feel about poets, rappers, and entertainers? Like, how do you feel about them being a part of what's going on with social justice?
Well, there are two sides to everything. The first one being that people are people, and you have to give people the link to be people, and maybe social justice isn't everybody's thing. However, I do believe that everyone that has a platform in the audience that is black has an obligation to speak on. Hold on, time out. Because Terry Crews shouldn't say anything. Terry Crews should not say anything. But should have at least the temerity and the strength to have an opinion that benefits the people. And also to work with whomever, like if they are not as learned about a subject, but to work with whoever to open their purse, to open their pockets, to not work with specific people, to not fund specific people who are against us. I think everybody has a role in doing something like that. But when I hear things, and I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but I've heard artists say things like, black people's problems aren't my problems.
Wow, that sounds like some Lil Wayne type stuff.
I've heard Lil Wayne say that racism doesn't exist.
Yeah.
There was a time when Raven was saying that she wasn't black, she was everything else in the rainbow.
Right.
And those things hurt our community in a really big way because they come from people who are seminal in our community's representation in the media and on television. Take Kanye West, for instance. Not even a Kanye fan. My mom and daddy wouldn't let me listen to Kanye when I was a baby. So I don't even know too many of the songs, to be quite honest. Don't judge me. But what disgusts me was, I won't say disgust, because people are people. Gotta give them the length to be people. But what is so difficult about that is that Kanye was a pillar in the black community. And what I do recall is him being on the news saying that George Bush does not care about black people.
Yes.
But now in the year 2020, you are best friends with someone who wants to kill us. Somebody who wants to keep the hardworking people who live here out of our country. Somebody who wants me to go to work with 50-11 snot-nosed kids in the middle of a pandemic. Someone who is actively doing things to tear down our community, and like that is heartbreaking. And I'm sure for the people who were diehard Kanye fans, they might still listen to his music, but I'm sure that is a part of him that they are very disappointed in.
Yeah, so speaking of that, when you speak of Lil Wayne and Raven-Symoné, and so you're an adult now, right?
Yes.
Do you think it's better to become, because they became famous, they've been famous longer than they haven't been. Do you think that it's important to mature and become an adult before you're put in a position where you have so much influence like that? Do you think that there should be something done about that?
Honestly, I just think it depends on the person, and because people vary so much from person to person, you can just never tell where it's gonna go. Because there have been people like Beyonce, for instance, who has been like a child star and has grown up in it, but it takes like a very specific type of molding and support system to maintain that coming up through childhood. What I will say is, there was a point in time, probably like 22 to 24, where I was like, man, like I missed my shot. Like if I'm not doing it now, when am I doing it? But the place where I'm at now, I feel like I'm so much better suited to handle what fame looks like because I'm stronger mentally. Like even when it comes down to, now do a series called Parking Lot Pimpin', shameless plug. But
we gonna talk about that. We gonna talk about it.
But yeah, like I have all kinds of people commenting, people giving me likes, people sharing my stories, and while it's great, while it's wonderful, people who say negative things to me, I don't feel a need to have like these livid arguments in my comment section. I don't feel a need to clap back all the time. People's likes and shares do not build my self-esteem.
That's
important. Like they are affirmations that I am walking in my calling, but the praise itself does not make me feel like a better person. Like honestly, I've had to like turn off my notifications because it's so much. You know, I still need to handle like my time and time management, working with that, but I just think I'm in a much better place now to handle all the things that come with that, even emotionally. So it just depends.
Speaking of that, we see y'all in the comments. She's sunning y'all in the comments, bro. I don't know who that dude was.
Okay.
She gave you a list, bro. Hope you see this. She gave you a long list of why you need to fall back. I thought that was hilarious. He was commenting on one of your parking lot chronicles. Is that what it's called?
Parking lot pimping.
Parking lot pimping.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
It's so amazing. Like,
thank you.
The one, so obviously, the best one was when you, and I'm going to say what you said.
Okay.
You said Malcolm X was bisexual?
Yeah.
Listen. That statement right there, see, I had no knowledge of that, but when you said it, I think a lot of times people, when they hear certain things that they don't know anything about, they just assume like, that's crazy, there's no way. I kind of believed it, because I remember, if I'm not mistaken, your rebuttal to somebody, you were speaking of him like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said he was like not a prostitute, he was a prostitute.
Sex worker.
So Malcolm X was a sex worker.
Yeah.
So that right there, I'm the type of person, I'm a well-rounded human being. So when I hear about other well-rounded human beings, when I hear things, I'm like, I don't judge them. I'm like, okay. But you saying that, did you know that people were gonna react like that?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that I didn't get as many hateful comments, because I think I really only got 2 hateful comments from black men. One of them said, it's women like you that are the problem, and then there was the one who did the whole rant situation. But anyone else that had anything to say was really like, oh, I find it a little hard to believe, and then I just kind of gave them some resources. And that's the other thing, I don't say anything that I can't back up.
Right.
Like I didn't go to grad school to not learn how to research and give credible information. But I knew that it was going to garner that kind of response, which is exactly why I immediately followed it up with the spitting out the water to kind of just take a little bit of the edge off. Like, recognize my audience, because people, and I'm sorry, Black people, I love y'all to death, but homophobia is so strong within our community, and especially someone like Malcolm X, someone who's a part of the Nation of Islam, where they do not associate with that in any form or fashion, are going to be so ferocious about me saying something, like taking it as if I'm trying to make up some trashy rumor about one of the greats. And what my whole point is there, because I listed off a bunch of people, there's nothing trashy about somebody's sexuality, and that's my point.
Right.
Malcolm X being a sex worker before he discovered the Nation of Islam only shows that he has a past just like everybody else, one, and two, him being bisexual had no effect on his ability to speak or his ability to lead. So,
and unfortunately, you know, his sexuality shouldn't really matter. It's like one of those things, like, it's almost like, I mean, it's Malcolm X, like, you know, people are gonna look stuff up, but it's almost like none of our business, really. You know what I'm saying? But like, when you use it in the way that you did, it's for a positive thing, you know, it's to show, like, you know, you guys are homophobic, but somebody that you look up to, and somebody who was looked at as super masculine, you know, it's bisexual, which is, when I saw that was my immediate thought. Like, people need to know that there's, like, first of all, like I said, it's none of your business, but you don't, to be gay or bisexual, like, it doesn't always have to come with, like, what people normally see it as. Like, like, nobody thinks that when they see Malcolm X, and even after that is being said, it still doesn't change. Right, it's none of our business.
I don't think it can change your perception of Malcolm X.
Exactly, and it just shouldn't. Like, those guys who commented, I think that a lot of times those guys be gay or bisexual.
That's literally what everyone always says. It's probably the most closeted people that have the most visceral responses.
Because it's like, why does that upset you though? That's always been my thing. It's if you don't agree with it, that's fine. You know, stay where you are with that. But for it to really, like, upset you, because I saw Buddy, like, commented and you didn't respond, and then he said something again. Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was hurt, man.
Yeah. And he also wanted me to respond. And the response that I gave him, like, he said I sunned them, and I guess, like, in the way where you politely tell somebody off, I guess, because I didn't feel a need to rebuttal anything that he said, because honestly, I didn't know what he was talking about. Like, he just kind of pulled stuff out of the air to kind of give this heated response, and he said that I hurt him. Even when he responded, he said, I would never allow a white man to hurt me the way you just hurt me in this video. And while I don't think I hurt you, I only got 2 minutes for these little shorts. Maybe this short just wasn't about you, and to be quite honest, and I can say this to you because I think that you won't fight me over it, but I think a lot of Black men who are a part of that specific class get upset anytime the conversation is not about them. Because that's all it was. Like, I literally just wasn't talking about you at that point. I wasn't talking about the prison industrial complex at that time. I was not talking about rape against young Black boys, because these are all things that do deserve attention. It's just that the conversation becomes so focused on Black men whenever we talk about racial issues that it becomes an umbrella for everybody else, and then when that happens, everyone else still remains neglected.
Question. And I've heard this, it wasn't said directly to me.
Okay.
I've heard people say it.
Okay.
I can see it. I've heard people say that the Black man is to Black women as the white man is to Black men. I've heard Black women call Black men white men.
I've heard that as well, and all I can do is explain that perspective. What it is there's been enough trauma that has happened to Black men that what it seems like to us, because we are the next step down, we see and we feel what a lot of Black men do to make themselves feel powerful. And a lot of the times that looks like how white people treat Black people.
Wow. That, and we didn't, you know, this is about you.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna talk about you.
But it's fine. This is what I do.
Yes, I just wanted to get your take on that. That was good though. I'm gonna reach over here and we're gonna have another moment that never happened. The self-care. That was really good though.
Sweat a little bit.
We almost done.
That means I'm working.
Right. Okay. We have two more.
Okay.
Okay, so now let's lighten it up.
Okay.
I want to know, well, should I lighten it up? Because I just had another brain fart. So I'm going to have to reach back into this. And we just go, okay, I forgot that really fast. All right, so we're going to lighten it up. And like I said, we want to focus on you.
Okay.
So with that being said, with speaking on what bruh had to say, what do you think is the biggest misconception of Lynae?
Oh, that I'm. Can I say the B word?
Do you think?
Okay, just that I'm a bitch. I've gotten that a lot. That people, when they see me, they think I'm mean, or like giving responses I might give. Sometimes they might think I'm rude if they don't know me. But I think that's one of those things where like I'm just very quiet and very much reserved. And it's also a part of the way that I grew up. My grandfather used to say all the time, you let somebody talk long enough to tell you everything you need to know. And so I'm just very observant of my surroundings before I give myself to my surroundings. But I'm very generous with people that I know. But I'm not a smiler. I'm not just like I'm not a person that walks around cheesing or just even looks like light on their feet. And you know, maybe that's some internal stuff I gotta work out, and that's fine because I'm into it. But yeah, a lot of people said when they met me, they did not like me. But as soon as they got to know me, their entire perception changed. So yeah.
I feel that. I didn't think that about you, but I did wonder like, is she good? You know? It wasn't anything like, I feel like when you say bitch, it's kind of aggressive, but it wasn't that. It was just like, she's reserved. But I understand that because I hear that about myself all the time. But, so, in conclusion, this is the last thing. I want you to make sure that everybody knows parking lot pimping. How often do you put out parking lot pimping?
Parking lot pimping comes out every Friday.
Every Friday, parking lot
pimping. Pull up to the lot, you know what I'm saying?
Pull up to the lot. Little Girl and Me. When is that coming out?
It's coming soon and very soon. We're looking at a mid-August release or a mid-August start to promotion.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. Okay, so like I said before, I am DeMario, aka Wise, with Winifred's daughter, my lovely friend Lynae Bogues, the assassin. Until next time, peace.